I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Today is Friday, December 2nd, 2022. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along. Let me ask if you'll help me reach out to some of your friends and invite them to join this conversation, to join the program on a regular basis. You know, we do this program 5 days a week, and our goal right now is to grow the subscribers on our Insight News YouTube channel. So I've got a specific ask of you. If you're listening right now, or if you watch this later, please go to the Insight YouTube and subscribe, like, and share. And we're going to send this message out through all of our platforms. We're on LinkedIn, for example, if you're watching us there. We're on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, great. Thank you for being here. We're on Facebook for Insight, Facebook Al McFarlane. We're on Facebook Black Press USA, and we're on YouTube Black Press USA. But across all of these channels, we want to drive people to the Insight News YouTube page. We've got a specific goal, and I want you to support me, to help me, to work with me to achieve this goal. What's the goal? We want 1,000 subscribers immediately. We're at about 200 now. And that's 200 that we thank because we've not asked in a major and consistent and super intentional way. But we're shifting because we're going to be growing this program, growing our visibility, our reach, and there's a certain new intentionality for the next iteration, the next development of the conversation with Al McFarlane. So what I want to do is ask you to come on board as a subscriber. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button, or if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube, Insight News YouTube, and subscribe, like, and share. And I'll be reporting out day by day what our progress is on reaching our goal of 1,000 subscribers. It's 1,000 to start with. We think that's a doable, manageable, reasonable goal. We haven't set a hard time on it, but we want to do it quickly. And we can do it if you come on board and subscribe and help us. And if you tell your friends, your kids, your brothers and sisters, your neighbors, your professional colleagues, something cool is happening over at the Insight YouTube channel, and you ought to be a part of it. I am, and ask them to subscribe. There's no charge, no fee, just the good feeling of our people being with each other. In fact, that's the deal. The deal is, how do we demonstrate what we can and should mean to each other? And in that, how do we then continue our path towards freedom? How does being together mean that we are taking the steps towards our freedom, our sovereignty, our fulfillment, our destiny? That's where we're going. I'm rocking some more gear from the Narrative organization. I think this is Karen Hunter's personal brand, but I love it. It says Global Majority. That's who we are. We are the global majority. And my goal is to continue to help us rethink our position, to rethink the context out of which we make decisions. If the context is one that continually casts us at the margin and as the minority, we're going to act a certain way. But if we see ourselves as part of the global majority, there's another power, another sense of capability, another sense of what the world looks like and our role in it that is more accurate, that reflects us and all of our dignity, our glory, our legacy, our history. That's where we're going with this. So listen, once again, I'm asking you personally to right now, if you can, subscribe and to like and share at the Insight News YouTube channel, Insight News YouTube channel. And if you're not watching us on Insight, you might be watching us on Twitter, you might be on Facebook, You might be on YouTube for Black Press USA. Go over to Insight News YouTube and like us, share, and subscribe. Help us reach our goal. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers, and we want to do it pronto, quickly. Thank you. So listen, today is Friday, and I'm pleased to see my colleague and friend, Dr. Bravada, Garrett-Akinsanya, in the house. Dr. B, how you doing, sister? You muted. You muted.
I'm excited about the day, and I'm so happy to see you. I'm excited about our program today.
Well, thank you. And I always am. But we're waiting for a couple of people to show up to join the conversation. It's a good time for you and I think, to always, as we do the protocol, how we start our meeting and explain to our viewers the value of having a process that respects and enables us to be on our path to our best self. So I'm going to pass the talking stick to you, and I'll take my student's chair.
Thank you so much, Baba Al. The important thing about this program, it is a circle. And even though we're not in a room together, we are virtually in a circle in our spirit. And African people do business, do dreaming, and the biggest events often happen in circle. And in that circle, the reason it's so sacred, there's no beginning or end of a circle. We're all in the circle equally. And it shows an equal distribution of power, because everyone in the circle, no matter who you are, you have access to the center, which is the space of power in the circle. We give voice to each other. And in the circle, things are orderly and respectful. And because when we're in the circle, we acknowledge first our elders who give us permission to speak. And as we gain that permission to speak, we also recognize our ancestors. And we honor our ancestors because they're the shoulders that we stand on. Our elders are the shoulders that we stand on. But our ancestors are honored because they're closest to our Creator. So in that important role of knowing there's no space or time that separates us, the circle is our sacred space, a sacred place where the truth can be told, healing can begin, healing can be nurtured, and our rights as people of color, especially African people, they're recognized. So in that circle, because we do things in order, we also use a talking stick. And the person who's holding the stick, they have the voice at that moment. And what we can do in this circle is ask for the stick. Otherwise, it will just be passed around so that every voice is heard and acknowledged. This is a sacred, wonderful space. And even though it's electronic and virtual, in our spirits, there's no space, there's no distance. So that's the protocol.
Thank you, as always. Well, I see Dr. Williams is here, and I see Sherlyn is here. Sherlyn, good to see you. And a new friend is here who's visiting from Kenya. Let me pass the talking stick, though, to Dr. Williams first. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. How you doing?
Well, good afternoon, Baba. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you.
That's good. So we talked about the event that I went to, was it last week? But I'm excited to meet your friend from Kenya. And hi, Cheryl. So, Grace, what part of Kenya are you?
You're muted.
Unmute yourself. Where the microphone is.
Yeah.
There you go.
And do that.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
My name is Grace from Kenya.
Yeah,
I
what
come
part?
from Eldoret. My city is Eldoret in the Rift Valley region.
Okay. Yeah, I lectured at Kenyatta University and in Nairobi, as you know.
Yeah.
And so and have friends that are in Kenya as well. So Very nice. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Is it Ambassador Grace? What would you pronounce your full name for me? Your last name?
Grace Chepkemei Rono.
One more time. I'm going to learn it. Say it properly.
Grace Chepkemei Rono.
Ipame. Chipame. Rono.
Rono, yeah.
So good to see you. Thank you for being here. Now, I read a little bit because you were going to be with us yesterday on our program for the Hawthorne Neighborhood Council, but your colleagues were there. We had a great program talking with people that you work with in Eldoret? In Eldoret, Kenya. And they talked about how do we create community connection for women's health, in particular, community health, maternal health, and for mental health as well. And what we do on this program every week is talk about, how do we be aware of having our bodies and minds healthy and productive. And so I wanted to, and I asked my colleague, Clarence Jones, to reach out to you since we didn't see you yesterday, to have you come on today to talk about your work there in Kenya and your mission here. So I think you're here for a little bit, right? And I see my friend Sherlyn is there as well. Sherlyn, how you doing? Can you hear me, Sherlyn?
Yeah, I had to unmute, and we've had conflicting noises.
Right. Okay. So just being together makes that easy.
Yeah, Grace, I met Grace when I went to Kenya in 2011, and then Clarence went in 2012.
Right.
Yeah, I introduced him to Judge Lang and told him about what we were doing. Was hoping to take some more Black nurses over, but we couldn't do that.
Okay. And now are you in an ambassadorial role, Grace? Did I get that wrong, or what's the role that you're on?
I'm a retired public servant, and I'm doing community work, working with the community, particularly women, children with disability, and street children who are found in most of our streets in Eldoret. And so that is my passion, to be able to help these children and women who are not able to access certain services in the country or the county where I live. And so also to help them access communication with the authorities, whereby their voices can be heard, and also so that they can participate in decision making in things that concern them, in things that they want the government to help them with. So most of these people are actually marginalized. They do not have a voice of their own. And so I try to connect them to the communities and to the relevant authorities so that they can be assisted and their needs be looked into.
That's wonderful. Let me jump in really deep with this one, because my question is, Minnesota, the U.S. studies and is examining the health disparities between people of color and white people. So like in Minnesota, one of the healthiest states in the country, white people are living well and doing well by and large. And they're living so well and doing so well that even the abject failure to serve our community and the numbers, which are bad for our rate of success in health and wealth and home ownership, et cetera, we still don't drag down their quality indicators, right? But there's a huge gap. And so our fight in part is to say that we're not interested in white people not doing well. We're interested in our people doing well as well. And we believe that properly managed and guided by a sense of justice and equity and fairness and balance, it's possible that every human being can enjoy what technology and governance and service can provide and should provide to all of the citizens. But we see our situation in a context of black and white. The history here is that whites have power, blacks don't, or don't have the same kind of, we have power, a different kind. And there's always tension, always a fight. Our fight is to gain standing, visibility, equity, access, and to be agents of our own healing and our own destiny. The question becomes, Grace, what happens when our people are the government in Kenya? The power is our people, but the disenfranchised are also our people. What is the connection and what is the pathway to equity and to engagement, to a sense of ownership and a sense of there being no barriers to the person's individual fulfillment, development, et cetera? What do you think? It's a big question.
Thank you very much. Actually, the government is trying. It is trying its best to reach out to people in terms of health, in terms of equity, in education. But still, there is a lot left to be desired, because not everybody is reached out on this. So you find that the poor remain poor and the rich remain rich. And so that is the gap that is there now in Kenya. But we are here, I'm here to at least look at how you people are managing these things, how you are managing homelessness, how you are managing homelessness in Kenya is actually like street life, like children who are living in the street families and street children living in the street. We have also the cultural aspect of it. Culture affects a lot of things. It affects a lot of progress. Like there are some cultures that are not really healthy. There are cultures.
For example, what do you mean by that?
Like FGM. I don't know whether you know FGM, female genital mutilation.
Okay.
It is still being practiced.
Okay.
Early marriages. For young girls, actually early pregnancies, and the life in the slums, that we have slums in Kenya whereby so many people live there and so many people do not access health because of the environment within them. So actually, you find that these people are exposed to a lot of health issues. They are exposed to violence. They're exposed to gender-based violence too, and some harmful practices like, cooking fuel. Most women cook with the women in Kenya, the people who do the cooking actually, as a cultural aspect of it. Mm-hmm. So the women cook with the firewood, they cook with the charcoal, and they cook with the very crude type of fuel like animal dung, mm-hmm. which is dried, and they use it for cooking. So this causes a lot of respiratory diseases. It causes eye diseases. It is very unhealthy for everyone within the environment. So I try to bring in some ideas or strategies that will help them maybe access clean cooking. I'm helping them to learn about solar cooking, which is actually clean energy. It is also safe. You find that when they are using firewood, children fall into the fire, so then they get burnt. Children are exposed to very unhealthy respiratory diseases. Mm-hmm. And so when we embrace solar cooking, like what I'm helping my community to learn, they kind of find it quite healthy because we have a lot of sunshine in Kenya, and you only need to have an appliance that can tap energy and the food will be cooked. So this will help them at least to have clean cooking, to have, and it is also cheap. It is not costly, like you would have to go to buy firewood. You'd have to buy kerosene. You'd have to go to the forest to look for firewood, which is also dangerous for the women. They are usually raped when they are found in the forest. So these are some of the challenges that we are experiencing. And like you said, there are many people, there are people who are able to access quality health or good health, but there are people who are not able to access this health. And everything in Kenya is paid, like health services are paid for, and not everybody can afford. Like even the vaccines are free, but testing is not free. So you see, most people are not exposed to that. They may not even test because they know that if they tested, they need money to go and they test. So those are some of the things we are experiencing. Thank you.
Charlene, what's your memory from your last visit to Kenya, and how did you guys meet? And I'm always interested in how we find ways to keep connected once we make trips here or trips there. I think it's a wonderful thing. And what's your story on being in Kenya?
Well, I came over with International Leadership Institute, and Grace was part of the government entourage that showed us around. And I had gotten, I guess, was it a cargo full of medical supplies donated from Hennepin County Medical Center, because I was on the biomedical ethics committee. And I mentioned I was going, and they were cleaning out and throwing away stuff. I said, please don't throw that away. I'm going to Kenya. They said, come back later. So I sent a couple of trucks. I saw, oh my God, it opened my eyes, it changed my perspective and changed who I was as a human being. I realized how blessed I was, all the opportunities. I had brought over some like $3 stethoscopes over there. The stethoscopes that their nurses were using looked like something you saw in a museum, and it looked like a horn. And I could not hear anything. Their ears were so practiced that they could hear heart tone. I couldn't hear anything. And when I gave those stethoscopes to those nurses, they began to cry. You remember what they said, Grace?
Yes.
They said, so clear, so clear.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it just broke my heart, that stuff that we think so little of. So let me say this is the important part. I asked Grace if she could get together so we could bring people over to Kenya next year. One of the things I want to do is to get some nurses and some doctors that I collaborate with to go on that trip, but that we all start collecting things and asking clinics for medical supplies that we can send over. And we'll probably need a GoFundMe, which you can help with, Al, to ship that stuff over, because you know it's going to be expensive. Also, all of us can collect those COVID tests. I got Grace some when she went to our healing summit in St. Paul. They had some, and I grabbed a bunch for her. So if we could all get those and start accumulating those, that will be helpful. What else? We also want to bring over, I want to bring my son over. He's an electrician and a general contractor. They need housing built. We're not talking fancy stuff. We're talking about very basic. And if we could get some more people in the building trades to come over, Grace is going to work to have the government pay our way over and put us up. But you're volunteering when you get over there. You're not getting a penny. You're there to work.
Right.
And that should fulfill you in immense ways. So maybe Al, you have a contact with Pentair. A while back, I understood they had built a few wells over there. There are people dying for lack of water in the outer provinces. And that's something that, if they would be willing to build a few wells in different areas where people are just dying, they don't even have water. And I'm thinking, if we start working on this now, we could bring over the people we need and maybe be able to raise some money also to help defray some of the costs of us going over. Because if we could bring people over that could handle the majority of their needs, my God, that would be huge.
I would love to be a part of that. You know, one of my nephews is an electrician,
Wonderful.
and
Yay.
I'm going to recommend that he
Come,
I
yes,
keep telling him he needs to go to the motherland.
yes.
All of us need to go because, as you said, it's fulfilling, it's spiritual, it's grounding, and it also opens up a realm of
Changes your life.
possibility. You know, what I love is that just your being there and meeting Grace, and now Grace is here, but you are demonstrating what we can do with each other and for each other. That is healing, that is building, and that will create both solutions and capacity between us and among us. I think this is wonderful. And I'd love to be a part of helping promote
We'd love
and
you
support.
to go
this.
with us.
When do you have in mind next year? When do you think you want to do that?
We are looking at maybe sometime in July, between July and September, somewhere
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
That would be a good time because it will not be so rainy and it will not be very hot.
Especially working
So
outside.
we have a very good climate in Eldoret.
Where is Eldoret? Where is Eldoret? I've been to Nairobi, but only
We've been to
passing
Nairobi.
through.
It is on the North Rift Valley,
Okay.
just ahead of Nairobi, about 300 kilometers from Nairobi.
So you fly into Nairobi, then you fly to Eldoret or drive to Eldoret?
Fly.
Yeah, you can fly or drive to Eldoret from Nairobi or to Nairobi.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, maybe I forgot to mention this. Minneapolis is a sister city.
Yes.
A sister city to Eldoret.
Mhm.
So actually, that is why we had people like Shanil and Jajun come over to Kenya.
And Nadifa.
And Nadifa. Yeah, so we have that partnership, and I think we should actually nurture it so that we are able to do some collaborations in order to keep our friendship and partnership intact.
Yeah. Can I say one thing? Yeah. I have contacted my great friend who went to the same high school with me, Andrea. Mm-hmm. And she says, yes, I'm interested in that. And let's schedule a meeting because I'm going to see if they can throw a couple more fire trucks and maybe a line that can throw a couple more ambulances that way. Mm-hmm. And send over, a couple emissaries to do some more disaster training and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So that's something you could help with, Al, kind of putting the word out so that the mayor definitely wants to be a part of it. It's mm-hmm. something that will make him look good. Yep. You know how that works.
Yeah. Do you know my friend Tom Gita, Grace? Do you know him? Gita, Gita.
I have not met him, but I think I've heard of him.
He owns a newspaper called Inshallah.
Okay.
And he and I work together on a variety of projects. I publish his stories in my newspaper. He publishes mine in his newspaper. We both are principals in an organization called the Minnesota Multicultural Media Consortium. So one thing that would be cool is if you would help create a link between us and the newspaper radio organizations in Eldoret. Do you have a daily newspaper, a weekly newspaper there?
We don't have a daily newspaper, but we have a radio. Mm-hmm. We have several radios in Eldoret. So maybe we can link up with them. And also our main newspapers in the country, we can still link up with them too.
What's the main newspaper? The Daily Nation?
Yeah, the Daily Nation. Okay. We also have the Kenya Times.
Okay.
And of course, small other newspapers within the county.
Okay.
Not necessarily the country, but the county.
And for Dr. Bravada, the need is great for mental health over there, okay? So you are not forgotten, sister, okay?
That was going to be my next question is how is mental health?
I already told her about you.
So thank you. And because that was going to be my question. And we're talking a lot about, of course, physical health, because people, they can get medicine and they can get help for that. But mental health, can you tell me about what it's like for people living there. You already told me it's scary for women to go to the forest to get wood for fear of being raped. So that's, and they have to get wood if they're not, don't have other alternatives. So what's it like over there in terms
Well,
of the
mental health is another issue that has not, the government is trying to handle it actually, but to a large extent, it has not really penetrated to the people down on the ground. So it is something that is really very important and something that really needs to be given an opportunity. Some people are suffering from mental health that they don't even know that they are suffering from mental health.
yeah.
Some people know that they are suffering from mental health, but they are not able to access medical treatment, but they just leave somebody just to go mad. So when you are in Eldoret or in some of our cities, you will find people who are just mad people all over the place. So some mental health is something that needs to be given a thought and to be really handled, because there are some people who can be treated and they get healed. But because of negligence, because of the environment that they live in, you find them just becoming so devastated and running to the streets to just, they disappear in the street and maybe die. So it is something that really needs to be handled. And as much as the government is doing a lot, there is a lot to be done.
Yeah.
Dr. B, can we work on, you and I work on maybe trying to come up with some kind of program that we could train some non-professionals over there to help them to do group therapy, to talk therapy, but something that's easily reproducible without 10 degrees?
Yeah, and because there are a couple of things that I'm thinking about. One is around the violence relationships and the fear that people have, and there's some parts of it where we can talk about. There's one called Seeking Safety. Our own program, Project Marua, addresses violence and wellness promotion, and I think that looking at the whole person and the barriers and how to overcome them. That's where the real work needs to happen, because when people have a chance to give voice to their pain, not just their physical pain, which often is indicative of their emotional pain, they're connected. When people get a chance to have hope, they heal.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of not just bringing the medical component, which is so critical, but also partnering that with something around wellness, mental health, and wellness and balance, and and shared power in their futures.
Dr. B, we need some male therapists to go over as well because of the issues. You said, thank you, Oliver. Because of the issues, these men who are raping people, we can't speak to any of that. And to speak to how to get men to go to therapy. They could do group therapy with the men, because we already know it's a hierarchical system with men on top. So they don't want to hear what you and I got to say. And then at the same time, maybe some education could happen about rape, man to man.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, Oliver?
There's a organization. Do you know Grace Moser Congo? Grace, do you know Grace Moser Congo, Dr. Grace Moser Congo?
No.
Spell that for her.
Okongo.
Okay.
And Dr. Grace Moser Congo's in the Department of Gender Studies. And there's another Grace there, Dr. Grace Wargun Gum, that's there as well, and another Grace too. So Grace is a pretty popular.
A lot of Grace.
Send me an email with those, and I'll give Grace.
Yeah. If I can get your email, then I can.
Dr. B got it.
And there's another psychologist, male psychologist that I can get you in contact with. Yeah. We did a study. I took a colleague of mine, Tamika Gilliam, who she's in Egypt, but she was at University of Massachusetts Amherst. So we did a study where we went outside of Nairobi to interview So Grace Mo's Congo is Kisi, but we didn't go that far. We didn't go to her ethnic location, but we did do something outside because she's got a beautiful house outside of Kenya, and she has.
No, not outside of Kenya, outside of Nairobi.
Nairobi. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Kisumu. Have you heard of Kisumu?
Oh yeah.
It could be Kisumu, and
because from the name I can almost tell where she comes from.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
But we ended up getting younger men and older men, younger women and older women, and we did a study looking at issues associated with violence and their perspectives of what influenced violence in their families. The thing that was interesting that both Tamika and Grace and I found when we interviewed them was the fact that you're talking about patriarchal systems that's real, and you're also talking about multiple marriages that's real, and what the men and women told us is how they grew up with that, and as a consequence of growing up with that, they hated it, and it caused them to have distance from their fathers. But one of the things that was interesting is when the men got married, what their mothers told them to do to be in control of the family was to be abusive to their wives.
My God.
And so there's an opportunity to be able to intervene, because if they didn't like it, you can challenge the concepts associated with strength and power.
Yeah.
And reframe it. So Grace is doing that work in Kenya, and she's also got a micro business where she's getting women to work with her within her organization, so they can make money for themselves, and that helps to support them in terms of having some level of independence associated with it.
Yeah.
So
Dr. Williams, you want to go over with us? Because I was definitely going to ask you.
Of course.
You just start lining up your schedule, you know. You might need one or two more men too, because I mean, it's a lot of people we got to reach.
There's a person that used to be here named Daniel, that it was a pastor here who's from Kenya. Now Daniel moved out to Seattle, but Daniel's had been working with me around domestic violence issues, and so. We talked about ways to be able to get groups that are within the Twin Cities to come to get some support around those things.
I wanted to grab the talking stick for just a second, because one of the things that I strongly believe is that as African people in diaspora, we don't talk enough about colonization and what that has done to us, and how we're claiming the practices of our oppressors as our own. Because those things that we're talking about, the patriarchy, the beat downs, the raping, I can tell you that's not a value that should be called African.
No.
And so it's almost like no matter who you are, you need to go back to your own heritage and see the impact of the white man using you as property and disregarding your humanity.
That's right.
And how that has impacted us to this very day in the way we engage with our families, our children, ourselves. So I'm really pushing on stepping in a space like that and starting with the elders and the elders of the elders and hearing how, excuse my friend, how the hell did we get here?
Mm-hmm.
You said it already.
Yeah.
I said it.
Yes, and some of the mental health causes include gender-based violence, because they are not allowed to talk about it. You have been beaten by your husband last night, and you are not supposed to say it the next day to anybody. So that's why some of them actually go down and go through depression, and then of course that results to mental health already.
That's right.
We have children. Right now, we have a high rate of teenage pregnancies, and these also are caused by relatives and those people who are looking after these children. Some of these children are orphans. Some of them are these children who have ended up in the street. And so running away from home as a result of this abuse at home, and also gender-based violence. Like a child would see the mother being beaten and may not like that, and just go away, run away from home.
Mhm.
So I think those are some of the issues that we really, I pray that we can address them and be able to help people and train people to know that we are all human beings, and it's no longer, the woman's place is no longer the kitchen.
No.
They should get out and talk and access assistance in any way that is available. Thank you.
Dr. Oliver and Grace, would you both, connect or draw more on the connection between genital mutilation, female genital mutilation, and domestic violence, and tie those two together as Dr. B has in talking about the patriarchy as a phenomenon that really emerges not organically out of our historical construct, but in a sense is an adoption or response to or reflection of colonizer sensibility and strategy. Maybe I'm not saying it properly, but
Yes,
that's the general direction. So what do you think?
Well, a take that I have, and Grace, you help to correct me if you feel like I'm going afield of it. But, it's one of the things that I have learned is that a lot of these things have to do with men's, it's sort of like in the United States where you're talking about abortions, and then women don't have a voice in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so female genital mutilation is more about, in my opinion,
male power.
Catering to men's
Insecurity,
well,
need for power.
It maybe it got framed a little bit differently, and so men would go off to different places, and then one of the things that happened was that women were expected to keep themselves supposedly pure, and as a consequence, there are things that women ended up doing to make sure that they were celibate. And then part of it also had something to do with women really responding to men as they wanted, and women's pleasure wasn't something that was considered in the process. So if women felt good or were able to have a comfortable sexual life, it wasn't a consideration. It was really about what men wanted. And so and one of the people that we need to get, Al, is a woman named Fatima Porgo. She's in Burkina Faso now, and she works for the UN. But she used to work for me with the Institute. And so we had an African dimension to IDVAC. And when we did the work, one of her areas of focus was dealing with FGM. Obama had a listening session where he had African women from across the United States and also from different countries to be able to talk about that. And so we had one woman that was African that said it wasn't so bad. But you had 99 other women that ended up saying it was a problem,
Mhm.
and that it needed to be addressed and confronted. But also dealing, and some people that I know have had the procedure done. You know, basically what happens is that the
Clitoris.
extract the clitoris, and that's, so it's basically female circumcision is what they would call it.
Mhm.
And so people have been affected by that.
Mhm.
And so the question is, how do you undo that? And so some places are doing it less, but still there are a lot of places that are still doing it, and people are affected by it. And we need to be thoughtful about it, because it still affects a lot of people, you know. And if you go to will2change.org, and you'll see some segments that focus on Africa. You'll see Grace, but you'll see Fatima, you'll see a number of other women talking about the issues and challenges that they face. But if I can get Fatima on our line, then we can include her, because that was one of her areas of expertise.
Right.
Wonderful.
Before Grace comes on to talk about this, talk about more, if you would, Dr. Oliver, the structure, the multiple family or polygamous structure,
Mm-hmm.
where a man may have
Do you want to
several wives and several families. It's all one family,
That's
but
okay.
several layers of family. And what does that system do, both positively and negatively? How does it play into the question of both the patriarchy in its negative aspects, but is there a value, because it's coming out of the culture, I think, differently. I'm not sure, but
Well,
respond to that, and then maybe Grace jump in, please.
well, Grace, help me with this too. In Kenya, you have 81 different ethnic groups, and when we talk about power within the context, and help me with this, Grace. The conversation about elections. You know, when the former president was elected, when they did the elections, one of the things that happened was some people got killed from other tribes, and they got killed to improve his chances of being elected by people who ended up being maybe the majority of his particular ethnic group. So, you know, there are conversations they have. I have challenges too. It's important to be able to look at the strengths that we have from being African people.
Mhm.
They've got challenges too, historically.
Mhm.
And the historic challenges have been things like that, and being able to deal with so I went to Masamera,
Oh yeah.
and so we were looked over and protected by the Maasai.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about resources, they don't have any resources. They take care of themselves. And the thing that I thought was fascinating, that, you know, you get these impressions about what people are supposed to look like, and they're some of the most beautiful people, but also they were the most sort of dynamic as we had interactions and conversations. And you know, I'm wondering how they're doing this, but they had cell phones, and as they had cell phones, we talked about communicating with each other when I got back to the United States. But they talked about their experience, and when they were talking about doing things like protecting the animals, they should have been. I'm not going to put these shoulds on anything, but they had the knowledge base on what to do in terms of protecting animals and sort of dealing with conservation of animals. They walk across, so you have to realize when you're going, see these things that deal with Africa, and you go to Masamera, you go and you see the land, and you see all kind of animals all over the place. They don't mess with the Maasai because the Maasai. One of the things that you'd have to do as supposedly an adolescent male is that you in past days. I'm not saying that they do it now, but you had to kill a lion if you were an adolescent, boy, to become a man. And so one of the things that our friend named Sam, that was part of the Maasai, and he gave me a
spear?
Huh?
A spear?
No. I got a thigh of a lion.
Oh.
And so, and you're supposed to give it to your son when he becomes a man. And so I gave it to my son, Sam. But, and then we did the dances. They did the leaping dances that were supposed to be for like marriage and all. But one of the things that they talked about is that when they walk across the plain, one of the things that's interesting is that the lions, or the animals will see the colors of now, I don't know if they're colorblind or not, but they're walking across the plain, and that if the animals see them, they know what they do, and they don't mess with them. Yeah. And they, and so we were staying in these tents, and at this one location, and it just dawned on me. I said, I might be a tasty morsel for somebody.
Right. They could knock that tent over and get you.
That's right. And so, but the Messiah was there looking out for us to make sure that we were okay. And
well, the question I heard you come close to, I'm stretching a little bit, Dr. Oliver. You said they obviously demonstrated a capacity to conserve and care for the animals.
Right.
And then you stopped.
Yeah.
But do they care for the women? Is the question.
Well, let me put it to you this way. So men and women have different roles, and roles are things that one has to respect. If you go to Kenya and you're going to interact with family, you have to understand the division of labor, but also understand the roles of men and women. Mm-hmm. Women have different roles that they're supposed to accomplish. Men have different roles that they're supposed to accomplish. And that in the city, there may be things about getting a job, taking care of family, providing for family. And women are supposed to care for family. And that and so there are differences between what would happen in the city compared to what would happen in the country or Masamera. And in the country, men can have more than one wife, but if somebody's identified as having cheating on someone, the woman gets blamed for it. And she's maybe punished, or even though the men have responsibility for dealing with the cattle, if a cattle gets lost, the woman's responsible for finding the cattle. Mm-hmm. Those are things that confuse me. And where, the expectation and what you put responsibilities on her that seemed like it was and I wouldn't want to do it that way. But I didn't grow up like that. And so, and women can be beaten. And it was interesting when I was lecturing at Kenyatta University. The thing that was interesting is listening to the questions. The Q&A was really interesting. And listening to women talk about, and asking questions about being a victim of abuse as if it were their fault.
Let me ask Grace to jump. We're winding out time-wise, but Grace, respond to some of all of this.
Well, maybe I've even lost the trail of the questions that were asked. But then,
bigamy.
but then talking of Maasai or the communities that are in Kenya. Of course, we have several communities, and during the elections, as you said, there was election violence, whereby, we have some tribes who feel that they are the majority, they are the power people, and there are some tribes who are minority, and they are taken as if they are small, they are marginalized, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So the big tribes were the ones who are actually fighting, wanting one of their leaders to take leadership. And of course, it affected even the innocent person. It affected the small person in the ground there, very innocent. Women died, children died. People who did not have anything to do with the politics died. And of course, the whole country actually suffered. I'm happy that the recent elections were quite peaceful. I'm sure you are aware that we recently had elections in August last year, and they were very peaceful. There was no violence in the country. So I feel that Kenyans are also growing. Kenyans are also maturing, that it is not about killing each other in order to succeed in leadership. So that is one aspect whereby I think we Kenyans are really have really opened their eyes to see that we don't have to fight in order to get leadership. Mm-hmm. Talking of polygamy actually is something very acceptable in society in Kenya. Of course, the Christianity tells us that one man, one wife. But the community believe that a man can marry as much as he wants. And there are incidences whereby people have walked out of their marriages because of polygamy. Mm-hmm. The woman does not have a say on that. The woman if a man brings another wife, you're supposed to welcome that woman and make live with that woman. So it has become a challenge to some of the people, some of the families, that this has also caused breakage or break walking away from their marriages. Some conditions are not good. Culture also dictates because when you give birth to girls, I'm one of them who has 3 girls. And really, my marriage has not gone very well because of having 3 girls without having a son. So some of these things really affect the community. Like if you have girls and you don't have a son, it is like you are not going to keep the name of the community going on. And as Dr. Williams said, the Maasais are one of those people, are one of the communities that really encourage polygamy. They also encourage FGM, female genital mutilation. Mm-hmm. Some non-governmental organizations have come in to help the girls not go through the cutting, or the cut, we call it the cut in Kenya. Mm-hmm. So some of these things actually were done for the advantage of the man. The woman, like the female genital mutilation actually was to keep the woman at home. So that you don't know what is nice. I mean,
right.
You
don't know what you're missing.
What you are missing, that is it. Mm-hmm. So you see, it happens in different communities. There are certain things the woman is told not to eat. Like some women are told not to eat a certain part of the hen, the chicken,
because it's aphrodisiac.
Yes. there are certain communities where the woman is not to eat a certain part of the animal, beef or something, because it is sweeter or it is nicer. So everything that was good was actually reserved for the man. Mm. And these are some of the things that really is still happening. Mm-hmm. In some communities, and we are hoping that like-minded people can help also to educate and to create facilities and the resources that can help these abused children and women have a place where they can run to. It's they need a go-to place, because if you don't have your family, where do you go to? Yeah. And you are in an abusive marriage. You are in a marriage that you are not happy. You know, marriage is about happiness. If you are not happy, where do you go? So some of these things that are the causes of mental health, as we have talked, we have said, and also. There is a lot of substance abuse also. Like these children, I've told you, they live in the streets. They sniff glue. And at one point, because I work with them, I try to talk to them. When you ask them why they are doing it, they say it makes you feel good. You forget. You don't even feel cold in the street. You don't feel hungry. You don't want even. You don't think about eating food. So, and this also is an health issue. It is something that really makes them fall sick and are prone to diseases, and at the same time, they are not able to access health. They remain in the street, and they some of them die in the street. Yeah. So these are the scenarios that really we need. I try to talk about so that we can see how this can be helped.
We're out of time now. Listen, thank you so much, Grace. So happy to meet you and to hear you. I'm going to say this is our beginning, because we want to continue this conversation and develop the capacity to talk to people on the ground at home, as well as here in the diaspora, and to figure out how we can share our successes and our innovations and our expectations in a way that honor culture, honor history, but honor the humanity and the dignity of each and every one of us. So listen, thank you all for being here. Dr. B, Dr. Williams, Sherlyn, and Sister Grace, thank you so much. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.